welcome to A Game for Your Thoughts. Today we're talking about Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So, originally Majora's Mask was released back in 2000 on the Nintendo 64, and it followed up with Ocarina of Time. So this game had some really big shoes to fill. Ocarina of Time, considered one of the best of all time, really. So Majora's Mask is kind of the follow-up to that. How do you follow up one of the greatest games of all time? Well, you do it like this. You make Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is very interesting and very rad, so I'm very excited to talk about it, so let's jump into it. So Majora's Mask follows young Link after the events of Ocarina of Time, and spoiler alert, Navi leaves Link after the events of Ocarina of Time. She's no longer needed, but Link goes searching for her. So he's traveling through the woods on Epona, and he gets attacked by Skull Kid, and Skull Kid turns him into a Deku Seed. So Link must be a Deku Seed, goes to this place called Termina, which is kind of like an alternate place from Hyrule. And in Termina, there you have this carnival, and the moon is going to crash. The moon is this creepy looking thing. I mean, look at this thing. It's creepy. Anyway, so this moon's going to crash down in 3 days, so Link must stop Skull Kid before the 3 days. But anyway, so he gets to the top of the clock tower. He finds Skull Kid, stops him, but he gets the Ocarina of Time. And he plays the Ocarina of Time, which resets the 3-day time cycle. But before he does that, one of the fairies that works with Skull Kid tells you that you need to go to the 4 different areas of Termina and get the giants to help stop Skull Kid. So now it is your goal to go across Termina, find the 4 different giants, and stop Skull Kid. What a plot, man! So, as big and crazy as that summary was, that's basically the first hour of the game. Crazy, right? That's a lot that happens in an hour of a game. But going on from there, the story is, I wouldn't say light, but it is very not in your face about it. A lot of this game is based kind of around the gameplay and how you go about spending those 3 days, because every time you play the Ocarina of Time, you play the Song of Time, you reset the 3-day time cycle, which I'll talk a little bit more about the gameplay. But story-wise, it's very interesting because it introduces you to all these different situations and things that only happen at certain times, which comes into play with the Bomber's Notebook. And it's very interesting because certain events happen at certain times, so you gotta be in certain places for certain things, or you have to do something by a certain time for something to take effect in the world, or to get some sort of item or something like that. And I found that very interesting. It was a very interesting way to go about it. Like I said, I'll talk about the 3-day time cycle a little bit later when I talk about the gameplay, but from a story aspect, it works really, really well. There was not a whole lot of continuity issues because you do something at a certain point, and it kind of cuts that character's story off. You don't really see them very much, or if you do, they're doing something at a later time. Specifically, there's a big long side quest that you can do at the end of the game that gets you a lot of masks, and it is a really cool and emotional story. And that's one thing that this game actually has, is it has a really dark and emotional story. But the interesting thing is it's not a dark and emotional story for Link, it's a dark and emotional story for the people of Termina. And as you go through and you talk to people at different times of the day, you can hear kind of their thoughts on the situation. You're like, oh yeah, I'm so excited for the carnival. And then kind of as it gets closer, you kind of get like a lot of fear in people, and they're like, I don't have much time left, I gotta do this and this and this, and kind of the end of the world situation. And it's very interesting because you get a lot of really dark and sad stories from this. And I like that a lot. It was a very different twist than what I wanted or expected from a Zelda game. And it just sets a really dark tone for the game. But Zelda's always been about like fun, adventure, and like, you look at like Wind Waker and it's all bright and happy. But Majora's Mask has like the same art style as Ocarina of Time, so it looks very similar to Ocarina of Time, but just the environment and the story that it kind of tells is pretty dark, and it's just a very cool turn for the Zelda game series. I mean, I can't think of any games off the top of my head that have, or like Zelda games specifically, that have such dark tones to it. I mean, there's so many situations I was like, that was pretty dark, man. Like, really thinking about a lot of these situations, it's just a very different tone than what I'd come to expect from playing Zelda games. But by the end of the game has a really interesting message that I really liked. I thought it was really cool. They take Skull Kid and make a really interesting and awesome message out of it. And I liked it a lot. It ended on a really awesome note that I just felt very heroic, but also like kind of felt like a really good feeling inside. I was like, yeah, I did the right thing here. And it was a very cool ending to a very cool story, and a lot of the side quests and things ended up being very interesting. I really enjoyed the stories that this game told. I really enjoyed the dark tone, and I just really liked the ending. It just was very heartfelt and very awesome. So let's talk about the gameplay. So the gameplay of Majora's Mask is pretty similar to Ocarina of Time. They play very similarly. I mean, you have Zelda adventures, you have a sword, Z-targeting, shield, all that good shenanigans. You got temples to explore, a big open field. Probably not as big as open as the Hyrule field, but you start in Termina, and it's kind of got these 4 main areas. There's like a north area, an east area, west, south, and each one kind of has a different theme. There's like a swamp, mountain, lake, or ocean, and then canyon, desert area. And they're all really cool. They each play very differently, and you can do different things in each area. And so the biggest thing I actually want to talk about is the 3-day time cycle. So like I said with the main story, your point is you got to go to these 4 different areas and get the giants to stop the moon from falling. So you got to go to the different areas, and using the 3-day time cycle to your advantage, you can go and visit all these areas, but you have to reset time quite a bit to activate certain events, or you do a certain thing and it kind of like cancels something out, so you got to go reset time so you can do some other thing. And it uses this 3-day time cycle very interestingly. And it adds a lot of really great tension too, because you always have a timer at the bottom of the screen telling you how much time is left in a specific day, and then once you really get down to it, it tells you how much time you have left before the moon crashes into the earth. And it's actually really intimidating. I mean, this moon is really freaky, the music really picks up, and it's really awesome. I loved this 3-day time cycle, is it doesn't necessarily... It's there to stress you out. Absolutely, it's there to stress you out, because you're playing through a dungeon, you're like, halfway through the dungeon, I'm only on day 2, you know? And it's really, really cool. It's very interesting, and they use it in such a unique way. And I was thinking about it, I was like, why didn't they do this with anything else? This was such a cool idea. But I don't think any other Zelda game, or really a lot of other games, could work very well with this 3-day time cycle like Majora's Mask does. It's very specific to Majora's Mask. And I think that makes Majora's Mask really stand out as a very unique game in general, and a very unique Zelda experience. But this does lead to one of my kind of biggest complaints. It's not a bad thing, don't worry too much. But the biggest thing with Majora's Mask is there's only 4 temples in this whole game. So that leaves a lot of exploration and adventure to you. A lot of other Zelda games, it's not necessarily straightforward. You can branch off and do little side quests or find extra heart pieces, things like that. But with Majora's Mask, a majority of this game is doing side quests and finding heart pieces and things like that, preparing yourself to kind of get to that final encounter. Whereas in a lot of other ones, you kind of get that stuff along the way. But Majora's Mask, you really got to go out of your way to get it. And I didn't necessarily have a problem with that, but I definitely felt at certain points, I'm like, I just didn't explore enough somehow. And I don't know, it was kind of a weird thing. But on the plus side, the exploration is a lot of fun. It leads you to a lot of really cool side quests, really cool areas, fun puzzles, little mini dungeons, things like that. As for the 4 main big dungeons, are they any good? Yeah, they're pretty rad. They're not necessarily too difficult. There are a few that definitely have things to concern about, specifically the last 3. The first one is pretty good, it like fits the formula really well, but the last 3 really stress you out, especially that last one. You got to do a lot of stuff in that last one in a very short period of time to make sure you have enough time to do certain things, and it just gets super stressful. But that's what this game does, is it uses its time limit to a very good advantage. It's a very useful mechanic in the game that puts a lot of pressure on the player themselves and the story. It's really interesting. So real quick, how are the boss fights? Well, I always pride myself in really enjoying the Zelda boss fights. Like, some of my favorite moments of Zelda games are actually the boss fights. I love like the original ones with like the dragon, and then like its head like comes off and it's like floating around the room and you gotta avoid the dragon, and then like the bird from Wind Waker. You know, there's just a lot of really awesome moments come from Zelda bosses. Well, how are the ones in this game? They're weird. They're very weird. They're different. So I actually played the 3DS version. I guess I should mention this. That's very important. I played the 3DS version of this game, and they changed a lot of these boss fights from the N64 version by giving them all a giant eyeball. And I didn't like that, as it made them too simple, especially the very first one with Aldwalla, I think is his name. The little crazy, like, woo, him. Anyways, so they changed this boss fight a lot, and it's too easy, it's too simplistic, and that was a bummer for me, because I played the original N64 version a long time ago, and so I like kind of remembered how that one worked, but for the 3DS version, it was very different. They changed it. They just added a giant eyeball, and it's like, get that, and it's like, obviously, what else am I supposed to attack? So one of the biggest things about this game is the masks. I mean, you've seen it all. I mean, Link puts on a mask, he's like, ah! And then turns into something. And in the game, you get 3 masks specifically. You have a Goron mask, a Deku mask, and a Zora mask, and you can use each of those to turn into that specific race or that creature and use their abilities to your advantage. And I love that. That was so rad, and they used it in so many awesome ways, specifically the Goron one, like that boss fight that you use with it, or like the racetrack. Really awesome. And each one has its own unique instruments. Like the fish dude's got like some cool like fish guitar, and then like the Deku has these cool pipes, and then the Goron has some bongos. It's really, really cool. I love these transformations. I love collecting those masks. But my biggest probably bummer about this whole game was that there wasn't more transformations. It makes sense. I see why there's only the 3, Link, Deku, Goron, and Zora. It makes sense. I see why there's only 3. But you collect 23 masks throughout the whole game, plus a Fierce Deity mask if you collect all of the masks. And I loved collecting all the masks. The side quests you have to do, they're all really entertaining. Make a great use of the 3-day time cycle, specifically one last one where you get like 4 masks. It's really cool. It uses the time cycle to its advantage. I really enjoyed collecting the masks. Getting the Fierce Deity mask was a huge accomplishment, and it was a lot of fun getting there. I just wish more of the masks had a little bit more uses than just their specific quest, you know? So graphically, I'm going to focus more on the 3DS version because that's the version that I played from my experience, and I think it looks pretty good. This game looks pretty rad. For a 3DS game, it's pretty sweet. Turn on 3D, it looks even awesomer, and it's just a good looking game all over. The environments are really cool. I mean, it does kind of still have that retro Zelda-like look to it, like N64, but it has a little bit more of a modern look to it, and I really liked it. It was very enjoyable, very fun to look at. Technically, I can't think of any problems off the top of my head. I didn't run into like any like issues, like technically, like frame rate, glitches, things like that. It was a pretty smooth experience, which made it really nice to play through. And as it's a Zelda game, I always got to do this. I got to shoot some love to the music. The music in this game is phenomenal. It takes a lot of cues from Ocarina of Time, sets a fantastic tone. So many songs in this game are very memorable. They stick in your head, and they're really awesome. And you learn a lot of different songs. They have their own different uses, things like that. And I think each one is really cool. And it's fun learning the different songs and just listening to them. They're really, really cool. And one thing I actually really enjoyed doing is it gives you like the sheet music for like the first little bit of the song. And I was able to pick up my guitar and like play some of these songs. So that was really cool too, that I love the music of Zelda. It never fails to amaze me. It just sets a wonderful tone. It's so good, it's so catchy, and it's just such well-made music. So in the end, Majora's Mask is one of my favorite Zelda experiences. It's such a unique experience. That's definitely not for everyone. The time limit thing is definitely very stressful for a lot of people. If that's stressful for you, you know what, to be honest, I hate recommending this for Zelda games, but sometimes it's got to be done. Get a walkthrough, sit down, follow that walkthrough, and have a great time. Because I think it's such a very unique Zelda experience that I think you need to experience. The story itself, really awesome. It has a fantastic message at the end. The gameplay is pretty awesome Zelda gameplay. It's nothing like too crazy, but the uses of the masks add a lot of really cool variety, a lot of really unique touches to it that are a lot of fun that just you can't get from any other Zelda experience. I could not tell you any other Zelda games where I get to play as a Zora and swim through the water. Like, that's awesome. Or be a Deku and like fly through cool little flying puzzles, or be a Goron and roll into a ball and go through some cool rolling puzzles. Just no other Zelda game is like Majora's Mask. It has so many very unique gameplay mechanics and things it goes about, and I really enjoyed the dark story to it. The small little side quests and characters were all very interesting. I love following them through the 3-day time cycle and seeing how their life changes and how they're kind of going about spending the last few days. It just is a very interesting Zelda experience that I would highly recommend. So, in the end, if you played Majora's Mask back in the day on the N64 and you haven't picked it up on the 3DS, absolutely go do it. It's just as awesome as you remember it being. It's just as awesome as I remember it being. The 3DS version adds a lot of really cool things. It enhances a lot of different things in different ways, and just adds some very unique polish and just kind of general ease of life mechanics to the game. That makes it really enjoyable. So, I would highly recommend you go and check out Majora's Mask if you're a fan of adventure, if you love Zelda games, or if you just want a really rad gaming experience that's very unique to itself. And I think Majora's Mask is absolutely worth your time. Hey, thank you so much for watching my video on Majora's Mask. I love this game. It's seriously one of my favorite Zeldas. It's so cool, very unique, and I can't wait to go play it again because it's just so cool. But if you want to help me out, hit like, subscribe, and the bell to get notified every time I post a new video. That would be awesome. And while you're down there in the comments, let me know what's your favorite Zelda game. And or also, what's your favorite mask to use? This is the Goron, the Zora, or the Deku, or just normal Link. I like the Goron just because the ball rolling thing, really cool. But I love that fish guitar with the Zora. It's so cool. So let me know about what you like about Majora's Mask down in the comments. And also, if you want to go check out more of my stuff, head over to twitch.tv/agameforyourthoughts. I'm streaming there all the time. I'd love to see you there. And if you want to go check out more videos here on YouTube, I post new videos every single day. I have gaming content all the time. I talk about games, I play games, and just anything else games. It's all awesome, and it's all here for you. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and we'll catch you guys next time on A Game for Your Thoughts.